This is KTVO's Good Morning Heartland.
And welcome back. Some parts of the Heartland already got its first taste of the severe weather season. So the question is, are you ready if it strikes again? We have Kirksville Fire Chief Tom Collins and Kirksville Police Chief Jim Hughes here this morning to help us prepare for it the right way. How are you guys doing?
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. So obviously the season is upon us. You know, just last week, areas just west and north of us in Trenton got hit by a tornado. So the question is, what can we do to prepare ourselves to make sure that we can protect ourselves in case something like this happens in our area?
Well, you know, part of it we've been stressing for years is personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as you know, based on where we're at, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later, the limitations that we have as far as the conventional warning systems, the radar, those kinds of things, we're kind of in no man's land out here. And so personal responsibility, you know, getting up in the morning, kind of searching KTVO, find out what's expected for the rest of the day, kind of talk it over with your family, and just be prepared. I mean, protect yourselves and not rely on others. I think that's kind of an important concept from emergency management.
And so you have a weather radio, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but kind of explain how important that is to have on hand as well.
For weather radio, if you don't have something that works battery power and something to listen to, National Weather Service, sometimes you don't get good information or local information. And with the weather radio, you can get information that's designed to be right for where you are. So it kind of helps out. And like I said, this one's battery operated, doesn't matter, power goes out, you still have something you can get either the warning or the all clear for.
Right. So earlier you had talked about personal responsibility. Now, does that include having a plan set in place with our family, a getaway plan? Talk about that.
Well, absolutely. Everybody has to have a plan. What you don't want to do, and what is frustrating for emergency managers, is when you hear the sirens go off, which Tom can address, what you don't want to do is you don't want people calling 911, which is what happens is, hey, the siren's going off, what should I do? Well, you should have thought about that, you know, before the sirens went off. That's when you do your planning efforts. So what we encourage is that everybody have a plan for themselves and for their families when they're at home, when they're at work, or when they're out and about in town.
Okay. Now let's talk about the tornado sirens. I know that we do monthly testings where we hear them and stuff. What are we supposed to do, and how should we react once we actually do hear one, and when do you guys actually issue the sirens in a case of severe weather?
Okay. They'll issue this, they'll put out a warning when there's a tornado warning. And what we'd like people to do is think now about where to get shelter. Some people don't have basements, people in trailer parks, things like that. And we'd like them to think of where they're going to go for shelter now instead of when the siren goes out, like what Chief Hughes said. When the siren goes off is not the time to think, uh-oh, what do I do? So we want them to plan ahead. Where do I get shelter? What do I do if this happens? What does a tornado siren sound like versus any other alarm?
Yeah.
So that way they know what to expect.
All right. Now talk to us about how you guys and how the departments are trained to respond to these types of situations, and what can we do to make sure that we keep you guys safe? Because I know that we have people that once we see damage, we want to go and drive around and look at damage, and you guys don't encourage that whatsoever. Why is that?
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get emergency equipment into the area, and oftentimes, certainly the tornado from 2009, you have the roads that are severely impacted to begin with, and so you're trying to get a large fire truck or an ambulance, even a smaller police car, into an area to help people, and it's already congested, and you throw in a bunch of other people who don't need to be there. It can really complicate things and can, quite honestly, threaten people's lives by not being able to get the equipment in there when it needs to be.
And how do you guys keep up to date with everything? Do you guys have, you know, are you constantly checking the radars and stuff when you're out on patrol or out on your shift or anything like that?
Well, I might use the storm the other day. A lot of people don't realize, earlier that morning, Tom and I and some of the other emergency managers in the area, we were participating in a webinar with the National Weather Service. We sit around, we're looking at it on the computer and talking to them live, trying to figure out what's going on. And that storm that tracked through Trenton, we had been watching for a long time. Had it not dissipated, it was headed in our general direction, probably somewhere between here and Unionville. So we had been watching that for a long time and felt happy for us personally that it dissipated after it got through the Trenton and Milan area. So So we really watch things for a long period of time. However, I don't want people to think by us doing that we're always going to be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
We had a storm last year that came through. I think it was last year. Caught everybody by surprise. Us, the weather department, weather service, and it did over about $500,000 in damage. Blew off roofs, knocked down trees, and the first thing we knew was when one of our emergency managers said, "Hey, we just lost some telephone poles in the south part of town." And then the storm came through, and it caught everybody completely by surprise. So that can happen. And if I have just a minute, one of the things that we really talk about when we talk about personal responsibility is if you look at where we're at, and you look at the Des Moines radar, the St. Louis radar, and the Kansas City radar, there's kind of a no man's land, and right in the middle of that no man's land is Kirksville. By the time the radar beam gets to where we are, it's so high that a lot of things can happen underneath that. The weather service can't see. So to further answer your question, one of the things that people can do is when weather training is offered, attend that, become spotters for us, call us, when these kinds of things are going on, let us know the significant events that they're experiencing in their area, because we need to get a little bit of an advance warning so we can figure out whether we hit the sirens, whether we don't hit the sirens, and that sort of thing. So.
And really quickly, let's go ahead and talk about the fire department would like to give away a free weather radio. And what we'll do is we'll post, we'll go ahead and link up the Facebook page. And we won't ask the question right now. What we'll do is I'll post the question on our website and then link up your guys' website so they can answer the question, and then you guys will contact them. And
the first person that answers the question right
we'll get that
wins the weather radio.
Perfect. And then really quickly, let's go ahead and talk about the website that you guys encourage people to check out and help make a plan for your family. What website is that?
Ready.gov. Through Ready.gov, there's information on, as you've talked about, what to have on hand, preparedness kits. It actually talks about, like for you, for animals, how to be prepared in an emergency. And there's also links on there, and Red Cross has links to that. This weather radio was actually donated by Red Cross anyway, so we want to give them a plug. But there's a lot of sites like Ready.gov that has everything: severe weather, tornadoes. It has how to be prepared for everything. In having your own kits, what to do if there's severe weather, lightning versus hail, how to take shelter.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. What we'll do is we'll post everything on our website at heartlandconnection.com. And before we leave, something really significant happened 36 years ago today. And what would that be?
Well, pretty significant. It's the best April Fool's joke ever. My wife and I got married 36 years ago today, so happy anniversary, Margie. So thank you.
And it's not an April Fool's joke.
It is,
because
well, if it is, it's a very long-term one, so we haven't figured out how it's going to end yet. So.
Well, congratulations. And we'll be right back.